So we're hoping that this will go till about 12:45. And then we'll pause for questions. But if you have questions during the sessions, if you can just put them in the chat or raise your hand, we're happy to do them during the sessions also. And then if you could just make sure you're muted, and we will be talking about upcoming trainings in the fall, because I think we're getting to the end of the school year and it's a busy time. So next slide, please. Before we get started, I would like to hand it over to Justine Guthrie for her to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. Good to see everyone on the call today. I'm Justine Guthrie. I am predominantly the state coordinator for homeless education at the OPI. I also work in federal programs, and I'm happy to be here. We also have Natalie. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, thanks for joining us today. As most of you probably know, my name is Natalie Bondmiller, and I am a continuous quality improvement specialist for Child and Family Services. And I'd like to introduce you to our first speaker. We're very fortunate to have Brandy Locke with us today to talk with us about post-permanency support. Brandy is the Deputy Division Administrator for Child and Family Services, and she is a wealth of knowledge as she's served in various capacities during her 14 years working for the agency. So Brandy, I'll turn it over to you to go ahead and get started.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Hello, everybody. I'm glad to see so many folks on this call and have gotten great feedback on these lunch and learn sessions. So thank you, everybody, Marissa and Justine and Natalie and anybody else who's put these together. Very helpful. So and for anybody else, be sure you do follow up if there's certain things you want to learn about, because they've just sort of adjusted as they've gone, and we've had some really great sessions. So today I am going to talk a little bit about the post-permanency support work that we have within Child and Family Services, and then specifically what that can look like in the education world. So with both child welfare and education working together, what that can really look like. So this first slide here, part of my job, I should have said, as the Deputy Division Administrator, is that I oversee our Post-Permanency Support Bureau. And so what that looks like is we had for probably about 8 years, historically, some of you may have heard of Afton Russell. She was our one and only post-permanency support specialist for about 8 years. Over the past 2 years, we've been able to hire 2 additional folks, Michelle Stokes and Amy Arnold. And we're just in the process of growing this post-permanency work. So what this is for kids that are adopted or have a guardianship finalized through Child and Family Services after they've been in foster care. Oftentimes, if any of you have worked with these families or maybe are a family yourself, it's like the support sort of ends at the time you go into the court and the judge finalizes and approves the adoption or the guardianship. It's like, okay, good luck to your family. And really realizing over the last several years that that's really the beginning for these
and
families.
Then I'll work the rest of the afternoon.
Oh, sorry. And so I thought that was me for a second. And so what we've realized is that that's just the beginning. Some kids may be adopted when they're very young, when they're 3 to 5 years old. Others may be adopted when they're 12, 13, 14 years old and on up. But as you all know, just as parents or yourselves or working with kids and families, that there's certain kind of pressure points in a child's growth and development that require some additional support, particularly with kids often who have been in the foster care system. So those kids, you guys in education can probably tell a lot of those kids just right off the bat, and so can we. And a lot of times they just need additional support. And so part of this work, this slide indicates on the right-hand side, it talks about the post-permanency program. And that's what we're in the process of working with all of the folks listed on the left side of the screen. They're supporting our agency in developing out a robust post-permanency program. And so not to get too much into what that program does specifically, but you can see sort of at the heart of the program is case management. And so the three folks that I mentioned earlier, they will provide some case management type services to post-adopt and post-guardianship families. And it looks at the very top gold little icon there that says pre-permanency support. It's starting it's sort of anticipating what could happen once a child is adopted or in an approved guardianship, starting that work at the very beginning with the family and child to let them know that there are going to be supports available beyond that adoption, so that they, because that's often a concern. There's lots of services wrapped around in a foster family or a pre-adoptive or pre-guardianship family, and then all of a sudden all those supports end, and it can be scary. Some people are like, yes, leave, we're done with the department, let us move on. And then others are like, that's scary to not have somebody show up once a month for a home visit or help us get enrolled in the next school or whatever it looks like. So meeting people where they're at, but letting them know pre-permanency that there's supports available. And then just kind of going around that wheel, we'll do a comprehensive assessment to see what families' needs are, connect them possibly to counseling services or other pieces, connect them to any sort of 24-hour phone supports that people have within their communities. There's therapists and different groups that offer those pieces, the 24-hour support. And so connecting them to those. Crisis intervention is a big piece, because we get families that the kid, they adopted the child when they're 5 or 6. And then when they turn 12 or 13, entering that sort of prepubescent age, lots of things change, as you know, with your own kids, and can be kind of exacerbated with these kiddos. And so how do we respond immediately to those crisis needs? And then you see that purple bubble there, the educational advocacy, which is what we're going to talk about today, where you all are extremely important, and OPI has been a great partner in this. And then moving on up, there's just different support groups, different agencies that we connect with outside of Child and Family Services that help provide support groups specific to that post-permanency group. And then respite care for families that need a bit of a break, that there's other families that are trained and able to provide safe care to their kids while they kind of get things back in line for themselves. So we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so this is what our work with the National Post-Adopt Center that we talked about on the previous slide, that whole group on the left-hand side of that slide. We're in the process of working with them for a year. And so our work ends with them this November, but the work of the post-permanency Bureau won't end. That's sort of the beginning of where we start seeing how this fits into Montana and what things that we can do moving forward. And so just kind of what it looks like right now, I thought it'd be helpful for you all to know that we have a steering committee that I'm on and my staff are on, and then others involved within Child and Family Services are part of that provide oversight and approval for projects as we move forward with the post-permanency work. Then there are infusion teams. We have, I think, 6 or 7 infusion teams now. OPI is a part of them. We have other education folks on there that are a part of them, just so we can help get more voices at the table to help us build this program out. And then that last little piece, the Lived Experience Advisory Group, we call that the LEX group. And that is made up of foster and adoptive parents, guardianship parents, as well as adults 18 and older that were adopted or had guardianships themselves. So they were children or youth within Montana's foster system. And they're all made up of this LEX group that will help provide feedback and what they really need or want within the services that we provide. We can go on to the next one. Okay, so then I'm just going to kind of talk a little bit about the educational advocacy piece. For the next, we just have a couple more slides here we're going to go through, but when we're working with this National Post-Adopt Center and looking for supports for educational advocacy, these are sort of the core elements that they want to see within our educational partners that are working alongside. And so this may be a new concept for some of you all that are in the education side of things, because as you know, and in these lunch and learns, you've learned all about the foster care system and how to support kids in foster care and when they may need changes or school placement changes, those sorts of things. We also want to see that same level of support, at least on some level, with these kids that have been adopted or in guardianship placements, because they're still going to have many of those same behaviors. They're still going to have many of those same mental health concerns that arise. And so we want to be sure there's still a strong partnership between Child and Family Services, the family, and the educational system moving forward. So some of these kind of core elements, and you'll see as I read through these, with the work of OPI that you all have already done and having like the foster care liaisons and the points of contact within the school districts, a lot of this stuff is already in place, which is awesome. So these are just like in an excellent partnership. These are kind of the things that would take place. And so some of these core elements are that educational advocacy is defined as a dedicated program with specialized staff that support individual adoptive parents and guardians in understanding, accessing, and maintaining all needed educational supports that their children are entitled to, helping families to address any school-related challenges such as bullying and difficulty with transitions, supporting and empowering families to successfully advocate for themselves and their children within the educational system, and then informing the educational system about the specific needs of children who have experienced trauma and loss. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, but a lot of that they refer to as adoption competency. And it's just everybody who works with kids that have been adopted or in guardianship placements end up facing different challenges than your typical student might. And so what is education advocacy? It's really a multi-tiered approach of intervention to support families navigating the education system. And so typically there would be four main elements. One is that parent education, one is staff training, professional consultation, and direct intervention. So the same types of things you would do with our foster children may also be applicable to those kids that have been adopted as well. We can move on to the next one. So just a couple of things to highlight around strengths and challenges that can come with educational advocacy for this population is that PPSS stands for our post-permanency support specialists, those three gals that I mentioned earlier that work for us. They provide the strengths are that they provide some educational advocacy for adoptive and guardianship families. And they partner with OPI to ensure that school districts have foster care liaisons to support children and families after permanency. And so just sort of whatever your seat is at the table in the education world or in Child and Family Services, just thinking about what you might be able to do to not only support kids that are in foster care, but this other population after they reach permanency. So just kind of thinking about those. What we've thought about maybe some challenges is our Child and Family Services folks lack that formal special education training, a lot of the educational pieces, knowledge around IEPs, 504 plans, that sort of thing. So how can we develop a relationship between our three post-permanency folks and you all in the education world to kind of gain some of that knowledge and be able to provide advocacy to those kids? Okay, and then our role differentiation. This is the piece that you guys will see that you're already really doing. There's kind of the liaison role, which is which can be in the school district. It can also be within Child and Family Services. Then the education advocate role. And so we look at most of the education folks is that education advocate role where you have more of the formal training. You understand that the nuances among IEPs, the 504 plans, the expulsions, all those types of things where you can help kind of support those pieces within these families. The liaison role then is really helping students with transitions between schools, as we know that can happen often, and any of those transitions are a big thing for any kid, but especially kids that have had that trauma piece. Helping to prevent any unnecessary school moves, connecting resources for transportation, that sort of thing. And then just advocating for those students when they're interacting. And then in that middle little section there is that both really need to have that adoption competence training, which we'll offer as we move forward. That's sort of being created right now, but as we move forward with this post-adopt process, helping each of our agencies to understand what adoption competency really means and how to support those kiddos that have been adopted or in guardianship, and then clearly defining what those roles are, like many of you have already done. And then this last piece is, well, there's a couple more pieces, but this one talks about trauma-informed educational advocacy. And so kind of that multi-tiered approach. These 6 little buckets are what would create the ultimate kind of goal around educational piece. So that safety, trust, peer support, collaboration, empowering kids and families, and just being responsive to them when they reach out with a need. And then this one just has a little bit of data on it. The next couple slides do, just for the need for educational supports among adoptees. So the ability to receive support in a school setting can allow individuals who are adopted to receive services during the day and can focus on how the students' accommodations support their ability to obtain their education. And so the little data slide down here talks about the percentage of children who are adopted and receive accommodations in school. So it shows like what is the educational accommodation in that left-hand column, and then private domestic adoptions, what that percentage looks like, versus inter-country adoptions versus us in Child and Family Services, which is the adoption from foster care. So you can see that there's a pretty significant number of students that have been adopted that do require an IEP plan, a 504 plan, et cetera. So just keeping that in the back of your mind that often these students are ones that are receiving those specialized education services. We can go to the next one. And then just the need for educational supports among adoptees, which we've talked about a little bit already, but just really understanding the unique needs that these kids can face, that these students in your schools can face. Many of them, of course, have been exposed to prenatal substance exposure, which can cause them to struggle as they begin school, behaviorally, social, emotionally, that sort of thing. They tend to utilize SPED services at higher rates than their peers. And certain school assignments, we always like to put this in there, certain school assignments and classes may hold specific triggers for children depending on their history. This one I'm just going to highlight only because it's like a soapbox thing for me. But, what they're talking about here is all those fun activities at the beginning of the year or whatever, where the kids all get to say who their family is and who their siblings are and share that with the class, can be really triggering for kids that's parental rights, their birth family's parental rights have been terminated. And so it's like, am I talking about my birth family? Am I talking about my adoptive family? It might be embarrassing to some kids, especially older kids, to say they were adopted. And when most of their peers may not have experienced that. And so just being mindful, you all as liaisons and things in the school district can help educate on that piece, because it's something a teacher may not have even thought of, really. Like this is just a fun activity to get to know everybody, but it can be super triggering for a child that's been adopted or in foster care in general. So, and the last one just shows how many students are served typically by IDEA. And so you can see in Montana that there's roughly 13 to 15% of kids are served by IDEA that have been adopted or in guardianship placements. And that is it for me. Does anybody happen to have any questions or thoughts around that?
Brandy, I think we got a question that is the LEX group different than the QIC, the Quickie group, QICEY group?
Yes. Hey, Christy, good question. So yes, the QICEY group was comprised mostly of youth that are in foster care or had been in foster care. That group is still going. This one is different in the fact that it's adults, young adults, age 18 or over that have experienced an adoption or guardianship themselves, and then the adoptive guardianship parents, that sort of population that can help support from their sort of seat at the table in those capacities.
Gotcha. Thanks, Brandy.
Yes. Any other questions, or did I miss anything else from the chat?
And if not, we can, if you have other questions, we can, if you have time at the end, we can ask them at that point as well. But otherwise, I will turn it back over to Amber.
Thank you so much, Natalie. I would just like to thank Brandy for joining us today, and I learned so much from that presentation. So thank you so much, Brandy. I would just like to introduce Amber Buchanan. She is a Title and School Support Analyst for the Office of Public Instruction, and she does all our data for federal programs, and she's just a whiz. And I'm so honored to have her here today to tell us more about data and how it really drives our programs, especially at the state level. So I will hand it over to Amber.
Well, thank you, Marissa. And I am excited and honored to be able to share this time with you. I truly enjoy my job working with data, but specifically find joy in providing support to program people at both agencies, including Natalie and Marissa, who are supporting you, the amazing people working directly with some of our most vulnerable students. And it's exciting that we get to come together and make a difference in kids' lives, even if my part is kind of small with the data. But I do want to acknowledge that before I talk about data, I always want to make sure I give a little bit of acknowledgement that I understand we are talking about kids and not just numbers. That being said, these two subpopulations that we're going to dive a little bit into have grant requirements that are in federal law. So compliance and reporting and documentation requirements are all part of the funding. However, in addition to that data, it can be used, like Marissa said, to drive services and interventions, planning for your future, and identifying ways to support your own programs, continuous improvement, and ultimately be used to ensure that these students don't fall through the crack. So to begin with, Marissa had asked me to talk data, but make it quick. So my goal today is just to keep it short, simple, and informative. I'm only here for 10, 15, 20 minutes, so I'm going to keep everything pretty high level. But I hear there may be a part 2 coming this fall, so stay tuned. I am going to spend today just doing some level setting on the 2 data sets I'm going to talk about, which are the foster and the homeless kids. So we'll go over some key definitions, differences in data cycles and collection systems, and then I'll end my time talking a little bit about student reports and the public dashboards that have both these data sets available. So starting with our key definitions, it's important to realize who we're talking about. So with foster care students, it is our 24-hour substitutive care for children placed away from their parents or guardians, and the Child Welfare Agency has placement and care responsibility. For homeless students, we are talking about those that meet the McKinney-Vento definition. So children who lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. In the federal world, we talk a lot about the SEA, and we don't say the C, but it's the State Education Agency. So in Montana, that is the Office of Public Instruction, or OPI. And then the next level of reporting or classification is the LEA, which is your local education agency, or what we refer to as the school district. Since Brandy went on a little soapbox, I'm going to take my time to hop on mine just briefly. So a common misunderstanding with school districts I would like to talk about. One being a lot of people confuse school systems with a school district. School system is not in the federal universe, so none of our reporting is by school system, and that's not a world that I live in. So if you say that you are working with the Helena School District, I would have a follow-up question, because there isn't a Helena School District. There is a Helena Elementary District and a Helena High School District. Helena has two distinct different districts, the elementary district and the high school district in the federal eyes. So that's one where usually we just group them together and we just call it the system name. Also, the number that you have on your bus and your website and on your signatures are not actual district numbers in the federal world. The federal government, each district has to have a unique identifier. So if you call or are asking questions to me about what's happening in school district 10, for example, I would not exactly know who you're talking to, because Anaconda claims to be school district 10, Dillon does, Liberty, and there's a few other number 10s. So in federal reporting, Anaconda Elementary has a 4-digit 0236, and the high school district is the 0237. So off my soapbox. That's a little bit about the LEA. The next level is your SCH, which is school. And the final acronym is an SIS, which is your student information system. So every school in Montana has a database that they keep their student information in. For most schools in our state, that's Infinite Campus, or IC, but a lot do use PowerSchool or their own system. All right, so we're going to dive a little bit into the two different data cycles for these subgroups. Homeless data, you identify at the school level and maintain that documentation at the school or district level, and it's sent up to me at the SEA. So your homeless student is ID'd, the district or the school enters that, and it's sent up to OPI. That's a different cycle than the foster data, which DPHHS has generated and sends OPI a list of current foster care kids once a month. And those students are identified and records are created and maintained at the SEA by me. And once I find and create that record, it's sent down to the LEA, the districts, or to the schools. So that cycle starts with students placed in the foster care. They get put on a list at DPHHS, that's sent to OPI. I identify it, and I send that down to the district. So both cycles are important, but it's also good just to realize that the data does flow differently between them. All right, so differences in the SIS processes. So this is like the cycles, it flows a little differently. So I thought I'd just kind of quickly touch on that. So in Infinite Campus, the data is linked instantaneously. So if you create a homeless record at your district, I can see it as soon as you hit save. If I create a foster care record, as soon as I save and publish it, you would be able to see it. However, I do want to note that we get our list from DPHHS once a month. So you may know a kid is foster before we receive that list and I find them and create that record. So it's instant, but there is lag time in the data. And then with PowerSchool or others, the data is usually only updated during specific collection windows. So they take your data out of your SIS and upload it into their version of IC, the Montana version, and that links up to the state. So you have your homeless data at the school level, so you are the source of truth for that data set. And then with foster, you actually have to go to the IC, pull a foster list and manually reconcile your system as you are the bridge. All right, so on to finding the data. Okay, so the first we're going to talk about student level reports, and this is only applicable if you're at a school level that you would have this kind of report that is in IC. So they are called the OPI maintained certification reports, and there's lots of different certification reports that are available to districts. One that has foster and homeless would be applicable for this group of people. But this list, I just want to note, is not a current list as most understand current. So when you say like, I need the current foster care list, you're kind of under this assumption that they're currently enrolled in your school and are currently in foster care, where these OPI maintain reports are more of an overall student enrolled during your school year from 7/1 to 6/30. So it includes any kid that may have been enrolled in your Jumpstart program. If you pulled the report today in April, you would still see that child's enrollment on that report. And it also includes any kid who's now no longer in foster. If they were foster in August and September and that case has been closed, they will continue showing up as a person on your list. And additionally, it's not a distinct list of students. So there's not just one row per kid. If they had the Jumpstart enrollment in the summer and then were enrolled regular and then left, you would have 2 rows of data. So just wanted to point that out with those OPI reports. My recommendation is that you would talk to your own IT staff and ask them to provide that report to you each month if you feel like that would be important for your process, if you can't access it yourself. And they can either create a user group or work with the Educate team here at OPI to help set that access up, or they can just get it to you. In the off chance that you really do need it and can't get it from them, Marissa does have the capability to pull reports, but she can't pull every school district every month and get that sent. That would be too much data. So we do want to empower you to be able to find the data yourself and know who to get that from. And the second recommendation is know your contacts at both agencies, as they can answer different questions about the data and the kids that you're seeing. So for the last little bit, I'm going to explore a little bit about the public dashboards. So this is available to everyone and you easily can find it. I usually just go to OPI and put in the search bar for GEMS and it will pop up. And on this website, you'll find state level, district level, and school level data in report cards. And you'll also find dashboards on specific student groups like foster and homeless. The dashboards allow you to filter by county, districts, and schools, identify trends, compare over time. But I do want to note that because it is public facing, there are masking rules applied. So if your district only has 2 kids, you will see an asterisk instead of that count. So that's important to remember when you're looking at those dashboards. So if you go to GEMS and you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the website, you'll see what's on the left, explore data, and there's different buckets. that group the data. So you would go to the student bucket, and then once you click on that, the next drop down will open, and you can see at the beginning you have dashboards about college readiness, graduates, assessment data, but under student characteristics, always in the bottom, you'll see a dashboard specifically for foster care and for homeless. So if you click on either one of those, we're pretending we're clicking on foster care, it will open up to the next slide, which will have a map of counties, and it's a heat map, so you can see where our highest concentration of foster care kids are. This dashboard has 3 different pages. So on the top, you can see there's like a map, an overview, and grad dropout. You can go and explore all of those different tabs. But on the upper left, there's the little drop down arrow. If you click on that, it opens up a filter. And so that's where you can drill down to any school year. You can then also go to a county like Deer Lodge, and then you can see on there, it has 2 districts, your Anaconda Elementary and your Anaconda High School. So if you want to look at your whole system, you have to click on both of those. And then the dashboard will update and the data moves, and you can see all your numbers and the change over the years. So in conclusion, I hope you are a little more knowledgeable about how to find your homeless and foster data, and you understand that it's important to verify the status regularly, how important it is to collaborate with both state agencies, along with coordinating with the people at the district, your homeless liaison, your foster care point of contact, and your IT support, and that you have a little bit more understanding of key terms and cycles and have some ideas on how to find data. So with that, is there any questions?
Amber, I might have missed this, but how often are you updating? You're updating our list monthly? Is that how
Yeah,
it is?
so we
Okay.
get the list from DPHHS monthly. So then I go through the process every month.
And I think it's just really important to, what are the, it shows us where the kids are in both systems. And I just think that's really amazing for safety and for educators. It's really important to let them know. A lot of times districts don't even know that they have kids that are in foster care within their district. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Hey, we are going to move on to Kara Dunn from the Montana Empowerment Center. Kara, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay, well, we're so
Do you-
happy to have you today.
Do you want me to go ahead and share my presentation from my end?
Sure.
I know that's kind of, I can, and I did make some changes, but I'm good with whatever. So
No,
make
we'll let
sure.
you share.
Okay. Here we go. All right. So hi, I'm Kara with Montana Empowerment Center. For those of you that have not heard about us, we are the state's parent training and information center, and we serve families with kids with disabilities, birth to age 26. And we don't just help families, we help professionals and everything too, navigating the disability system. So that's everything from getting connected with resources all the way up through helping them navigate Section 504 and 504 plans, IEPs, and understanding their rights under IDEA, as well as then options and transition into adulthood and all that entails. It's a really complicated system and it can be very overwhelming. And so just something a lot of states people don't realize is there is a training center in every single state. It is actually required under IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And so we are the only federally funded nonprofit by law. Just to give you a quick look to see, we're a very small but mighty team. We serve the whole state of Montana. We are overseen by a board of directors. And then we have our executive director, Heidi, and our project coordinator, Jean, and then the whole slew of us below me included, and a few. Myself and Jean are the only full-time staff, and then my other 3 staff members are all part-time. And so when I say we're a small and mighty team, we are small but very mighty, and we do a lot with the time that we have. But we do serve the whole state, and for the most part, we maintain an office in Great Falls, but the majority of us spend most of our time working remotely. Sometimes those of us that we live up in the Great Falls area do come into the office sometimes, but we are a remote team. So there's just a quick, this is actually an old picture, but you can see actually Sandy in the background on the screen with us because she is actually out of the Billings area. And then the rest of us are either in Great Falls or the surrounding area to where we can come in. Currently, that's not always the case. So let's see here if my video will work. I think that's next here. Maybe. There we go.
Welcome to the Montana Empowerment Center, Montana's Special Education Support Center. Before the United States had laws about special education, schools were allowed to deny services to students who had special needs. Most students with disabilities had to stay home and received little to no education at all. Very few families who could afford it had the option of sending their children to facilities that specialized in education for students with disabilities. We now know that most of these facilities did not provide these students with an education at all, but were merely a place where people with disabilities could live out of the public eye. Parents and advocates became very vocal and lobbied Congress to provide civil rights, including educational services to students with disabilities. This law is called the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA for short. IDEA changed the world for American children and young adults with disabilities. These laws included very specific requirements to ensure a free and appropriate public education for students with disabilities, also known as FAPE. It also required each state to have at least one parent training and information center, and that is what the Montana Empowerment Center is. We are Montana's Parent Training and Information Center. We are in a network of over 100 other parent centers. The Montana Empowerment Center can help by providing Montana's families and service providers with information and training necessary to assure effective educational programs and appropriate services for children and young adults with disabilities. At the Montana Empowerment Center, we help families in understanding their educational rights and responsibilities according to Montana's special education laws. We give families evidence-based information and tools to use so that they can better navigate the educational process. We help parents and schools work together to develop positive working relationships. We can provide services free of charge to families because we are funded through federal education grants. We help families in several ways, through individual phone assistance, training in person or online. We even attend some IEP meetings. The Montana Empowerment Center has served 56 counties and thousands of families across Montana. At the Montana Empowerment Center, almost all of our staff and board members have a family member or child with a disability, or have a disability themselves, so we can help in a process that we too have had to navigate. Our goal at the Montana Empowerment Center is to help parents and students become better advocates for their educational needs. Contact us today and let us help empower you.
So something that was mentioned in the video is that everybody on our team is familiar with the disability system in one way or another, whether it's personally or they have a family member. And so just a little bit about myself, since I'm the one on here. So I actually have a 13-year-old that is twice exceptional. He is gifted with a disability and has struggled with a lot of things over his life, especially with behaviors and being in the classroom and things like that. I also have 3 younger, wonderful adopted children, ages 6, 7, and 8. And we're in the process of actually adopting another young boy. And we'll be working on that, currently actually working on that transition. And so my personal background is actually in education. I have my undergrad in elementary education. I've taught K through 8 in a variety of capacity. Same with Sandy on my team. She too has worked in the schools in a variety of capacity. Other members are just simply parents that have navigated the system, and they found us in a variety of ways. A couple of my staff have adult children with disabilities. And so we all come with a variety of experience and background. And our board too actually it's part of the requirement is that majority of our board does have background, again, with the disability community. So it's something we're very passionate about. And many of you may actually already be familiar with PLUC, Parents Let's Unite for Kids. They were the parent training center before us, and they were they served as the training center for around 30 years, and then they had to close their doors. There was a very brief period where South Dakota took over the parent training role, because like I said, by law, the state's required to have one for families, until we received the grant, and we have now been serving in this role as Montana's Parent Training Center for 5 years, and we just recently received the grant for another 5 years. So we're here to stay for a while, and we love what we do. So our biggest goal is we want to encourage and empower our families to be able to, and youth with disabilities, to be able to advocate for themselves and help advocate for their children. We don't want to take their voices away. We want to provide them with the information, the training, coaching that they need to support them so that they can be comfortable going to the table and being the best advocate they can be for their child, because they're going to have to be that for the rest of their child's, life and throughout their education. So we do that by providing support and information and tools. Sometimes it's with training. Sometimes a lot of it is just the family reaching out to us by phone or by email and wanting some support. And so one of the first things we do is we talk to them and we hear their stories. And one of the greatest things that we offer families is a safe, trusting place that they feel like they can talk. Because they feel heard, because they can relate. We all have experience in the process, and when they hear that, that helps ease a lot of that stress, and knowing that they're talking to somebody that gets it in some way. So we can help with answering those questions and helping them navigate not just school systems, but also get connected with resources. And we're free. So these are just, I've already talked about many of these. We provide one-on-one coaching and encourage our families. We educate through live and virtual trainings, empower them with resources. We have a lot of resources, not just for our families, but professionals. Like I said, we do get a lot of partners and professionals that reach out to us. They want to support a family that they have, but maybe that family is not comfortable reaching out to us, or maybe they're just not in that place yet. I've gotten on a Zoom call with a partner and their family, and we got together because then they could be with that family and talking with me. So there's a lot of ways that we can support. We do a lot of referrals out to other resources. One thing we are not is a legal service. So we do not provide legal advice. And we tell our families this. This is one of the first things we tell everybody that calls us or in our presentations, that the advice we are giving is not legal advice. But if we feel in that process that they need legal services, or that's what they're looking for, we will help them get connected with those services in the state appropriately and what they need. So we help a variety of ages. So birth, like I said, age 26. So, but we also, and a lot of families don't realize, we help families navigate Section 504. Those are those kids that have 504 plans a lot of the times. IDEA serves a very small group of children with disabilities. There's only 13 disability categories, whereas Section 504, there's a much broader, it's any disability that impairs a major life function, that can be going to the bathroom. Okay. And so you might, or even hearing, my one of my kiddos has a hearing impairment in one of his ears, and so he has a 504 plan for accommodations to help him, because he has a major life function disability of being able to hear that impairs his ability to participate in the classroom. And so so we have a 504 plan. So we do help families navigate that, as well as ADA, which is the American with Disabilities Act. So just very quickly, I'm not going to delve into our resources, but I want to just kind of give you an overview. So we have lots of free webinars available on our website. We also do lunch and learns that are live webinars. We have tons of free materials that you are free to access, download, print, share as you like. Lots of links to other resources too. We are currently in the process of updating our website, and we're trying to improve it. And so you can get connected with resources in the state that are important resources for our families. And then, like I said, we offer live phone hours. So my team and I, we each take turns manning the phone one day a week. And we have live phone hours Monday through Thursday from 11:30 to 4:30, unless it's a holiday that we're closed. But where we're answering phones live and reaching out to our families and talking to them. So I am not going to read through this, but I just wanted you to get a quick glimpse of the printable resources we have available. So we have 3 handbooks, one special education, early intervention, and transition to adulthood. We have a ton of tip sheets that help families. Some of our most popular ones are our parent concern letter, a checklist for preparing for an IEP meeting, as well as the procedural safeguards. It's a nice, wonderful way for our families to see in parent-friendly terms what their parental rights are. The procedural safeguards, it's a big, long book. It's tough to understand. And so all of our materials are put in parent-friendly formats. And then we have a lot of stuff that's actually in the work, and we're constantly talking about what we can improve. And some of those things we actually are a part of the team. We've been for the post-permanency team you were hearing about earlier. We are part of that. They've invited us to the table to be a partner, which we're really excited about. And so hopefully through that partnership, we'll be able to even create some more specific resources around our kiddos that are homeless youth, adjudicated youth, as well as our foster families and kiddos.
Thank you so much, Kara. Oh,
And the last, I just want to, I want to go back here really quick. So on our website here, I know some of you had seen, so you can access our website right at the resource tab up top. It's actually all updated. It wasn't before, so you can go to resources and find all of our print materials. And then on this same page, you can find all of our webinars that you can sign up and watch for free at any time and at your own pace. So that's what I got for you.
Kara, thank you so much. Are there any questions for Kara?
Just stop.
There are so many services that I was never aware of until we connected. So thank you for sharing those today.
Yes, and don't ever hesitate to just reach out to us with questions that you have, or you want more, or if you want to schedule a meeting with us to do like a meet and greet. We absolutely love doing that and sharing what we do and our resources and things like that. And so we're happy to set those kinds of things up.
Thank you, Kara.
Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And if you want to put your contact information possibly in the chat so everyone will have it, that might be good. I just wanted to let all of you know that our spring high-tiered community of practice is going to be held in Great Falls, April 27th through the 29th. This is geared at neglected, delinquent, at-risk students, students in foster care, homeless students. Justine has put the agenda up and how to register it is going to be 2.5 days of tours of facilities and learning from experts in the field within Montana. And I hope to see all of you there. There's no fee to register, and OPI covers your mileage and your lodging for one staff member per school district or facility. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Justine, but we're really looking forward to it. And just so many resources that are realistic and in our communities and things that we can use on a daily basis and just network with other people that are working with the same population. So next slide, please. I just want to thank all of you for making this so productive and robust and so meaningful each month to both organizations. I don't want to speak for DPHHS, but we're so thankful for our collaboration with them and these lunch and learns, and it's meant a lot to us. And we will see you in the fall. If you have any suggestions for things that you'd like to learn about in these lunch and learns, please feel free to put them in the chat or reach out to Natalie, myself, or Justine. We're going to start planning for next year soon, and we really want to bring the things to you that you need. So on that note, I think Christy Hendricks has an announcement about the Foster Care Summit, so I will turn it over to her.
Thanks, Marissa. I was just putting everything in the chat. So our foster care summit is going to be June 16th through the 18th, and it will be down in Dillon for the first time ever on their campus. And it is for foster care youth age 16 to 19. It's free of charge. Chafee providers will do all the transportation for them. And then they will come away with tons of information, meeting other foster care kids, figuring out what kind of career they'd like to do. We do a lot of life skills for them. Thanks, Justine. Wow, you girls are so awesome. So it's really, really cool because the kids get to meet other foster care kids, and then they get to tour the campus. They get to sit in on some classes. This year, we're really focusing on life skills. So it's going to be a lot of hands-on activities, from changing their oil, changing their tires, to figuring out how to get their utilities in their own name if they're wanting to get an apartment for the first time. So it's going to be fantastic. It's free. The kids all, if it's their first time, they'll receive a gift card from $200 to $300, depending on how many kids we have attend. And then if they're returning kiddos, they'll receive a gift card of about $100. So it's fantastic. And it's really, really cool. So is there any questions on that? If you guys need to figure out how to register, just have the kids go to reachhighermontana.org, and then under resources, it'll be under the youth and foster care. And then the summit's like the second thing. It's the same login information that they use for any of the scholarships that they apply for, or if they have received the ETV in the past. So there you go. Thanks, Marissa.
Thank you, Christy. That sounds exciting. I am putting the registration for the high-tiered community of practice in the chat. And I just want to thank all of you again, and we will see you in the fall. And please don't ever hesitate to reach out to any of the contacts at OPI that you've met or DPHHS, and we're happy to help you any way we can. So have a great summer, and we'll see you in the fall, everyone.
Emily, I see your comment. Just a second. Let me see if I can get it for you.